Mortal Kombat X came out in the April of 2015 and it's safe to say that it was a critical and financial success, with good reviews across the board from most of the reviewers and criticers. Criticers, what the f***? Now, does this mean that it is still fun or worth it in 2021? Stick around and maybe this video will help you get an answer whether you should spend money on this one or just skip it. Let's start with the graphics. I have to say there's nothing impressive here to me, and yes, I am aware of the fact that it's a 6-year-old game, but I've recently played Mad Max and that game still looked really good and it came out in the same year as this one. The colors used are pretty pale and dark, and while some of you might say, but Roland, that's the essence of Mortal Kombat, dark and grim colors, I would respectfully tell you that yes, you are right, but I think they could have done a better job here. Now that being said, I think some of the levels in which you fight are pretty fun to look at, and some of them have some funny background things going on, so it's not all bad, but overall I wouldn't say it's an experience worth having at this point in time. But enough about that. Let's talk about the gameplay. How is the gameplay? Well, if you are an inexperienced casual fighting game player, like myself, in the beginning you will get frustrated a little bit, just because of the controls. They might feel a little bit heavy and unresponsive, but as you play the game more and more, you will quickly realize that all of the above problems are not actually problems. That's just how the game rolls, and it is just a lack of experience on my part. Because once you've somewhat settled in, got a feel for the game, you will start hitting combos, perfect timings and counters, and that's where these games always shine. I think that it's a game that's easy to play, to pick up and just play, but it's hard to master, in my humble opinion, and that's perfectly fine, because the better you get, the bigger the satisfaction once you eliminate the opposition. The AI in the story mode is a bit predictable and annoying. For example, almost every time you try a special move, I'd say 8 times or 9 times out of 10, the AI will counter that with its own special move, and while that is pretty cool in the first few times that this happens to you, after a while it gets a little bit boring and predictable, which can be a little bit of a turn-off if you play the story. But come on, who cares about the story and the AI in a Mortal Kombat game, right? And I can say that while I'm a casual at most at these games, unlike when I was younger when I was kicking my friend's ass in Mortal Kombat 2, I had a bit of a fun on the multiplayer side of things. And although the game is 6 years old, and there is another installment in the franchise since this one came out, there still is a decent amount of players in the multiplayer. On Steam there's an average of about 380 players on the multiplayer side of things, and while that is not a lot by any means, it still offers you the chance to play matches online if that's what you want. Although I don't see why you would do that, because I think you could grab the latest game and just play that multiplayer, because obviously the player count is much higher on that one. Now, let's talk about the storyline a little bit. First off, it's better than Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Now that doesn't tell us too much, does it? I think the story is a little bit short. I finished the game under 6 hours, I think it's a little over 5 hours actually. But it has a nice mix of both veteran and new characters, with a good balance between the playtime on both sides of the fence. The final showdown is a bummer for me, at least. I mean, I know it's a Mortal Kombat story and anybody can beat anybody, but it is a long stretch, to say the least. I mean, how on earth is your character able to kick the main villain's ass is besides me. But as I previously mentioned this, it's Mortal Kombat, so throw your logic out on the window when you play the story of the game. And at this point in time, I would say the story is the main reason to get this game, and that doesn't say too much now, does it? On a side note, can I just point out how badass Sonya is? First time I started playing as her in the story, I was like, oh, here comes the boring part. But boy was I wrong, and I can honestly say that, with one exception maybe, playing as Sonya was the most fun I had in the game. Her melee skills are fantastic, and considering that I'm a newbie and was not still comfortable with using too many special moves, this was the perfect character for me to play as. Now, not much else to say here, if I'm being honest about this game. It was a short and not too sweet experience playing it. Now, all this being said, is Mortal Kombat X worth your money? Now, I think this is a very tricky question. It depends, I guess. The story of the game is continued in the last installment of the game at the time of making this video, which is Mortal Kombat 11. So if you take that into consideration, it might be worth it, but only if you're a hardcore Mortal Kombat player and for some reason you had to skip this game when it first came out. If you are a newbie, like myself for example, I would skip on this game because it's still quite expensive for 20 euros and the story is not that good. And if you want to play like a Mortal Kombat game with a more lively community, then obviously you would get Mortal Kombat 11. But I would also get one only when it's on a sale. I see that sometimes it gets on a sale, because I think 50 euros for that one is still way too expensive for a game that came out a little bit of a while ago. And why buy it on full price when you can just wait until you get a discount on it, right? So that was it, guys, on this video, on this game. It's a shorter video because there's just not too much to say about this game, in my humble opinion. I finished it in like 2 or 3 sittings, I think. I had a little bit of a free time on my hand. I expected a little bit more. Yeah, that's about it. Guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope you find this video helpful. And if you want to see more videos like this, then stick around, subscribe to the channel, and I will definitely post some more videos that might be helpful for persons that want to do some backlogging in their games or just want to play some games that are on a sale and don't know if it's still worth it or not. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, stay safe, stay clean, and stay strong. But as you play the game more and more, you will quickly realize that on Steam there's an average of about 300